This is Dymock-Johnson, and today's topic is dungeons. After all, a good percentage of you are probably playing a game called Dungeons and Dragons. And if you're anything like anyone else who's playing it, you're probably going to want to include those things in your game. And with dungeons, you want to have an idea of why they're there. Why are these this catacomb, this labyrinth, or this warren of tunnels underneath something? Why is it there? Because that's going to be one of the first things your players ask. Why is this thing here? And if they've got a dwarf with them, and that dwarf is rocking those stonemasonry skills that dwarves often get, they're going to want to know about this. They're going to ask, who built it? Whose workmanship? When was it built? Because that will tell them. They will impart to the players information about the dungeon. And information is something you always want to give to the players. Players are, after all, deaf, dumb, blind without your information. And if you can have an excuse to give them information, to tell them something about your surroundings, you should take every opportunity to do so. So when the player asks, do I recognize the stonework? And by the way, I have stoneworking skill, whatever mean, shape or form they have, tell them. Let them know. And don't look like some startled rabbit in the headlights of a car going, I don't know. Make sure you do know. The complex was built by dwarves. Tell them it was built by dwarves. And tell them which sort of dwarves they were and what sort of things they would expect. And it doesn't even matter if there are dwarves still living there. If it is full of undead or goblins or balrogs or whatever else you find in old abandoned dwarven mines. You can give them this information about who built it. If it was built by mad serpent priests, you can describe all the serpent carvings on the wall, all the bas-reliefs and all the snakes and things as they go everywhere, and give them an idea that maybe they're going to encounter some nagas or some undead nagas, or at least something snake-themed anyway. Because if you advertise something in your game, put it in. It's no good putting a gun on the mantelpiece in Act 1 if it's not going to be shot in Act 3. So, if you're going to show dwarven stonework, snake person stonework, or, the fleshy tunnels that a mind flayer would construct and bore out of the ground and make a living complex in which to do its weird, inscrutable things, then have those things turn up. If there is, if it's an old, abandoned warrior clone, then have dwarven treasure. Stuff that the current inhabitants haven't yet got to. Because dwarven traps are pretty evil. You can throw in some dwarven traps. Have an explanation of why they're there and why the current monsters ignore them. They got to the first trap and went, the dwarves trapped this area. We're not going down there. We're not idiots. We'll wait for some adventurers to do it. They're pretty stupid. Anyway, we'll just go and live in these other bits, and once the adventurers set off all the traps, we'll go in and have a look at the loot. Of course, your adventurers are going to murder everybody, because that's what adventurers do. So, that is something you should do. Make the dungeon have a reason. And if it is still being used by the current occupants, what are they using it for? Why are they hiding under the ground? Do they hide under the ground because, it's a fantasy world, and most average Dungeons & Dragons worlds get the other thing. They get dragons, giant fire-breathing flying lizards. You do not want giant fire-breathing fire lizards ruining your day. You're going to want some sort of shelter at least to hide from them. Maybe that's why you have an underground complex. So that when the lookout screams, "Dragon! There's a dragon in the sky!" everyone abandons the farm, drops their tools, runs for the dragon shelter. And dragon shelters also have traps, because dragons come with minions, they come with kobolds, they come with lizard men, they come with dragonborn. They can get down and get into those dragon shelters and root out the nice, tasty morsels inside. So they're going to want defenses, they're going to want traps. And maybe you come across an old settlement that still has some of its traps active, or maybe something else has taken it over, and now you've got to root out. Or maybe new people are settling the area and find, oh wow, this already has a dragon shelter. Well, we want that cleared out. We'll hire some adventurers. They're fools. They'll do it. We can promise them whatever is still left in there, and we'll give them some paltry remains, and paltry rewards, and they'll be off, they'll be in. Adventurers love diving into dungeons, that's what they do. No idea why, but they're mad. Another concept of dungeons you can have the sin dungeon. The concept of a dungeon that is a result of the sin of the land, the sin of the kingdom, the sin of the ruler. These sins become manifest in an underground warren that reflects the sins of the person inflicting it. This is very similar to the dungeons you got in the old Diablo game. The king was evil, and the dungeon formed beneath whatever that village was. Tristram, I think. And the dungeon formed underneath Tristram started spewing forth monsters. And, well, that's why your adventurer went in to fight them off, because, well, actually you went in there to level up and do all those other silly things you do in Diablo games, but the reason for it there was because of the innate sin of the ruler. The king was evil, and the king caused the sin to manifest as a dungeon. You could have sin dungeons. Other ideas, you can have dungeons as actual living entities that are carrying the monsters from beneath the ground to the surface. They are a vessel, they are a vector for evil to come into the land. And therefore you need to, once a dungeon erupts and starts spewing forth its monsters, you need to send adventurers into it to defeat those monsters and to disable those traps and kill the dungeon beasts that bring more and more and more horrible things to plague civilization. And I think that's the idea behind Dragon Age or Dungeon Age. Something Age anyway. So you can have that sort of dungeon. The other dungeons you can have fortresses, you can have complexes, you can have tunnels, any burrowing creature that creates tunnels and complexes and nests. You saw this a lot in, I think, Diablo 2. You'd be going somewhere to fight whatever big bad monster there was in the game, and oh look, there's a dungeon to the side of you, and it's got creepy crawlies in it, and lots of creepy crawlies, so you can throw in your swarm monsters, your bugs, and your gribblies, and they nest down there and they have eggs. Maybe they're also scuttling up, coming out during the night and carrying away nice tasty mammals to incubate their eggs in. And that's why you want to get rid of those dungeons. And why you have to go in there, because, well, people don't like being used as having their people used to be incubated for eggs and more monsters. That's just bad. No one ever likes that. So you can have those sort of dungeons. You can have old, forgotten temples. All those evil cults, they don't want to stick their shingle on a wall and advertise their evilness. They're going to hide their temple. So that's why you have buried temple, possibly with cultists. Or if the cultists have all died or been eaten by the things they were summoning, maybe you've just got the undead guardians and their loot and their treasure. That's totally why you can have those. And then you can have more natural phenomena, sunken cities. Most cities end up being built on other cities, especially in fantasy games where you seem to have 5,000-year histories of pseudo-medievalism. One city is going to be built on another, and people are eventually going to forget about the last couple, and, well, they're still down there, and there's still, maybe there are things down there. Nasty things, interesting things, ancient things. But in any event, things adventurers want to look at. Things adventurers would find interesting, exciting, amusing, and they're clearly dangerous. Clearly horribly, horribly dangerous. That is the other thing about dungeons. Dungeons should be horribly dangerous places. They should be filled with horrible monsters, horrible things. Bad things can just happen to you at any time. Any dungeon which isn't being maintained is probably going to have been in slight danger of falling in. That's another reason to bring all those characters with stone cutting and knowing about tunnel skills. So, when they get to a bit which is a bit dodgy, they can say, wait a second, that bit looks a bit dangerous. Send the halfling in. Halflings are expendable. They are. Sorry. But, yes, you're just little, tiny, walking pieces of yummy meat, which are expendable. You can always go and get more halflings. That's what they do. They just breed. And that's another thing you could have as a dungeon. You could have your halfling warren. Your holes of halflings. And you have been commissioned to go and get some tasty, juicy, succulent halflings. And of course, halflings are dangerous little monsters. They're all thieves. Everyone knows they're all thieves. They've all got their sneak attack going on. They're ambushers. They're shooting people. They're shooting you from ambush with their slings and their rocks. And they're getting their sneak attacks on all the time. A halfling dungeon or a warren full of halflings should be a horror. Forget those kobold things. Fear the halflings. And that has been some thoughts on dungeons. In summary, make sure you know why they're there. Who built them? Is it still being used for its original purpose? Or has it just been taken over by some opportunist colonists? Because, well, dungeons are kind of handy. You know, you're lazy and you don't really like building things. You can't really be asked constructing, and there's this nice livable hole, and maybe somebody wants to live in it. Things want to move in. It's good real estate, so think about that. As with all these things, press the like button, subscribe, watch the other videos. Thank you.